Okay, so we're moving on into decimal division. Division is just like division of whole numbers, but we're going to start with decimal patterns. So when we divide a decimal number by a whole number, which is base 10, all we're doing is moving the decimal to the left. So when we talked about multiplication, we moved it to the right. So when we do division, we move it to the left. Okay? So 1/10 of, that means divide by 10. So whatever number it is divided by 10 means you're going to move the decimal one place to the left. If it's divided by 100, you're going to move the decimal 2 places left. If you divide by 1,000, you're going to move the decimal 3 places to the left. However many zeros in your base 10, 100, or 1,000, however many zeros, 1, 2, or 3, that's how many places you move the decimal to the left. And all you do is move the decimal. That's it. So if I have 4 36 divided by 10, I'm going to take that decimal and move it one place because 10 has 1 0. So my answer would be 436 thousandths. There was my decimal. I divided by 10, which has 1 0. So I moved my decimal one place to the left, 436 thousandths. So if I had 47 42 hundredths divided by 100, 100 has 2 zeros in it, so I'm going to move this decimal 2 places to the left. So now the decimal is in front of the 4, 7, 4, 2. So you don't have to know how to say that number because we only technically go to the third place value. You just have to be able to write it. And since we're dealing with base 10, all you're doing is moving the decimals. So your answer would be 0.4742. So, but what if I had 5,464 7/10 divided by 1,000? Okay, 1,000 has 3 zeros in it. So I'm going to move the decimal 3 places to the left. So here's my decimal in front of the 7, 1 in front of the 4, 2 in front of the 6, 3 in front of the other 4. So my answer would be 5.4647. So in other words, I'm not asking you to know how to say that number. I'm just asking you to know where that decimal is going to go. Okay, so the pattern for base 10 is, for division, is move the decimal to the left. So what if I had 14 3/10 divided by 10? Okay, 14 3/10 divided by 10, move the decimal one place to the left. It would be 1 43 hundredths. Okay, so it's all about place value. However many zeros are in the pattern, that's how many zeros you move your answer. Okay, so that's division patterns. Okay, try this one. $432 6/10 divided by 1,000. Okay, 1,000 has 3 zeros. So we're going to move that decimal 1, 2, 3 places. So it's now in front of the 4. So it's decimal 4, 3, 2, 6. You notice I'm not doing any division. I'm simply moving decimals from one place to the next. That's all you're doing, is moving the decimal. Okay, now let's look at algorithm. The algorithm, that's the standard division. Okay, the only difference is you move the decimal to the top, which is into the quotient, lined up where it is in the dividend. So dividend is the number on the inside, divisor is what you divide by, and the quotient is your answer. We've talked about that before. Okay, but look how I wrote it here. Dividend, and there's my decimal between the V and the I, divided by the divisor, which will always, for 5th grade, be a whole number. Okay, in 6th grade, you will start to use decimals, but for 5th grade, we focus on whole number, dividing by whole numbers, okay? And then if you notice, I took the decimal from dividend and I moved it straight up into the quotient. And notice how they're lined up right on top of each other. That's exactly what you do for division when we do the standard algorithm. So if I want to take 4 3600ths and I'm going to divide it by, we'll just start with 5. Okay, here's the one thing that you have to remember. Well, 2 things actually. 4 3600ths divided by 5. Okay, that's how you write it properly. Bring the decimal to the top. That's the first thing you need to know. Okay, first thing is bring the decimal to the top. Then we're going to divide just like we normally would. 5 can't go into 4, so I'm going to underline 43. 5 can go into 43 8 times. So I'm going to put an 8 here. 8 times 5 is 40. Notice how my 8 is lined up with all of these numbers right here. Okay, this is where, when we talked about division of whole numbers, this is why we talked about you have to make sure that you have everything lined up, and it's for this very reason. Because if you put that 8 before the decimal, you just made that 8 into a whole number, and that would make your answer wrong. Okay, all right, so 8 times 5 is 40. Subtracting, I get 3. 4 minus 4 is 0, so I don't technically need it. And bring down my 6. Okay, now, what can I multiply this 5 by that's going to give me close to 36 that doesn't go over? Okay, so that would be 7. 7 times 5 is 35. Notice all of this is lined up. Okay, 6 minus 5 is 1. 3 minus 3 is 0. Okay, the only difference with division of decimals is you cannot have a remainder, because a remainder is technically a fraction. So you can't have a fraction and a decimal working together. So we add zeros to our dividend to finish a problem. Okay, so I'm going to add a 0 to my dividend, because remember, we can add as many zeros behind the decimal as we want. It doesn't change the problem. I'm going to add that 0 and bring it down. Now I'm looking how many times will 5 go into 10. That would be 2. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 minus 10 is 0. So your answer is 872 thousandths. So we can add zeros to the dividend to finish our problem. However, don't work a problem past the third decimal. And I will show you exactly what that means in just a second. Let's see if I can come up with a problem off the top of my head. Let's see, if we did, let me think. Let's do 2 3400ths divided by 7. Let's do that one. Okay, so I'm going to say 2 3400ths divided by 7. I'm going to bring my decimal to the top. 7 times a number cannot equal 2, so I'm going to look at 23. 7 goes into 23 3 times, which is 21. Subtract, and I get 2. Bring down my 4. Okay, the closest I can get to 24 is 3. 3 times 7 is 21. 4 minus 1 is 3. Okay, so I have to add a 0 to my dividend because I can't have a remainder. So I'm going to bring down that 0. Okay, the closest 7 can get into 30 is 28, which is times 4. 7 times 4 is 28. Subtract, I have to borrow. Okay, so if you look, I've already got 3 places behind my decimal. I don't work a problem past the third decimal. So my answer is 334 thousandths, and I just ignore the decimal, or the remainder after that. Okay, it is not remainder 2. The remainder is we just leave it alone. Because we only know or work towards the thousandths place in 5th grade math, so we don't go past this 3rd place. And I'm going to tell you it's the same thing in 6th grade. They don't go past the 3rd place in the division problem. So whenever you have more or another remainder, you just stop. Okay? So let's see, what is 15 4/10 divided by 5? So work that out in the standard algorithm. So you're going to start with 15 5/10. Oh, I'm sorry, 15 4/10. And you're going to divide it by 5. So place your decimal on the top. Solve. Add a 0 to finish the problem to the dividend if you need it. But don't go past the 3rd decimal place. Okay, so decimal on top. 5 will go into 15 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15. 0. Bring down my 4. Notice I'm not bringing that decimal down. The only thing I do with that decimal is bring it to the top and leave it alone. I don't touch it again. 5 will go into 4, not at all. So that would be 0 times 5 is 0. Subtract, I get 4. I have a remainder, and I've only got 1 place behind the decimal. So I'm going to add a 0 and bring it down. 5 goes into 48 times. 40 minus 40 is 0. So your answer is 3 8/8. Okay? All right, I want you to practice on some division. I'm going to put some into Google Classroom as an assignment. Just some that are decimal patterns, and then just a couple of the easy, dividing by 1-digit numbers, okay? Just to practice, just to get us started. Please don't forget to watch the video all the way to the end so that you can get credit. Some of you are not finishing these videos, and I'm going to start taking grades on the Edpuzzles.